From the dark alleys of Gotham to the swamps of Louisiana, this isn't your average bad adventure. Harley's back, Ivy's plotting, and the Floronic Man is doing his best Swamp Thing impression. On this episode of Moving Panels, we discuss Batman and Harley Quinn. Welcome to Moving Panels, the podcast where we discuss movies and TV shows that are based on, inspired by, and adapted from the world of comic books. I'm your host, Laramy Wells, and joining me today is our dapper Southern gent himself. Please welcome Blake Fowler.
Laramy, I am now an enlightened individual as I have found out the Batmobile has a back seat. Had no idea.
No clue.
No clue.
Apparently difficult to find door handles, though.
Yes, very difficult, where you have to be hoisted up into the Batmobile.
Yeah.
Aggressively.
All right, well, we are kicking off our month of aniMAYtion. Of course, the month of May, so aniMAYtion. Get it?
All the puns.
All right.
We should watch a Joker movie.
We're going to talk about the Joker probably a little bit.
Okay.
All right. So we're in our month of aniMAYtion where we highlight some interesting and maybe even some underrated animated adaptations for comic books, and it's just a fun time to do it. And today we are talking about Batman and Harley Quinn, which was from 2017. So 8 years ago. Wow.
How did that happen? Yeah.
Released August 15th of 2017. Was this one that you like? Because it was straight to Blu-ray or DVD, whatever you want to call it.
Straight to Blu-ray DVD. I did not see it when it came out. 2017. Was that quarter life crisis for me? I don't know. I was going through something. I don't know. And this one skipped my radar until we decided to take it on. And you're talking about, there's some underrated animation we're going to talk about. This one is rated. It's rated animation for me. Yeah.
Okay. This is one, I don't think I got this one right as it was released. I think this was one I waited a little while. To be perfectly honest, this may have been one that I did not get until it was on the shelf inside of Big Lots.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. If we're scoping out the racks of Big Lots, you waited quite a while to pick that up. That would have been like a $3 Blu-ray then.
Yeah,
huh?
But I was about to say, but it would have been a really cheap Blu-ray. It would also explain why I didn't have a digital copy of it.
Oh, hell.
Because Warner. Look, I hate Warner Brothers for this because they're the only company that does this. But Warner Brothers actually does expire their digital copies.
Yeah, what is up with that? Well, it's digital. What does it matter how long you wait to activate it?
Yeah, I don't get it. Yeah, other companies, like I could find a Blu-ray and go, ooh, I never redeemed this digital copy. Put in the code, I got it now.
Good to go.
I may have owned it for 2 or 3 years and still I got it. But Warner Brothers, nope.
No, they're going to get theirs and they're going to keep theirs.
Yeah. But this, as most animated movies, this one is short. It just runs 74 minutes, so it's a quick watch. Doesn't feel like it, but it's a quick watch.
Like, please elaborate on the quick watch, Laramy, because we're talking something that could have been 40 minutes easily and been good. Anyways.
Yeah, we're gonna try to leave it as usual. We're gonna try to be spoiler free for this first half,
part,
but I do think Blake and I both have strong feelings about this one.
Yes, we do.
But it was directed by Sam Liu, who has directed a lot of great DC animated movies like Public Enemies, Superman, Batman, Public Enemies.
Fantastic.
He directed The Killing Joke.
Loved it. I loved it. Yeah.
Yeah, he directed Justice League versus Teen Titans.
Enjoyed that as well.
So, yeah. And, of course, this was written by the team of Jim Krieg, who Jim Krieg wrote for the Green Lantern animated series. He wrote Flashpoint Paradox. And then the legendary Bruce Timm.
That's where they got me, Laramy. That's where they got me.
Yeah, who of course was the co-creator of Batman the Animated Series and Superman the Animated Series and pretty much the entire DC animated universe was all because of this man.
Yeah, we're trying not to ruin too much, so I'll save what I'm about to say for later.
As well as being a co-creator of with Paul Dini of the character of Harley Quinn.
Okay, that's why I'm so confused about this, Laramy, about what I watched. Okay, I feel like I got flim-flammed and bamboozled into thinking I was going to see an actual extension of Batman the Animated Series, and what I got was the Temu version of an extension. So,
well, like I said, we'll get into more of that.
Yeah, we will.
Let's
Sure.
go ahead and knock out probably what has been one of my longer comic book connections, but let's go ahead and do the comic book connection.
This is the comic book connection theme.
While this film isn't based on a specific comic storyline, it does draw deeply from the legacy of Batman the Animated Series and the character of Harley Quinn created by Paul Dini and Bruce Timm. Harley first appeared in the episode Joker's Favor in 1992 of Batman the Animated Series, before making her comic debut in The Batman Adventures number 12 in 1993. But that was still connected to the cartoon. She was later integrated into DC continuity with Batman Harley Quinn in 1999, which is a one-shot tied into the No Man's Land event. Now, this film's tone channels more slapstick violence and unpredictable energy that you more see in the early 2000s with the Harley Quinn comic character, that run done by Carl Kessel and Terry Dodson, where she is more of an anti-hero than she is a villain. The plant-based apocalypse plot mirrors themes from Batman Annual number 25 and Gotham City Sirens, where Harley and Poison Ivy, along with Catwoman, blur that line between hero and villain. The Floronic Man, aka Jason Woodrue, he is pulled from the comics, deep into the comics. For those of you who don't know, he first appeared in The Atom number 1 back in 1962 as Jason Woodrue, and then later became Floronic Man in Swamp Thing number 111 in 1991. His motivation for triggering a global mutation via the Green ties in thematically with Alan Moore's Saga of the Swamp Thing, even if the tone here is far more cartoonish. How familiar are you with the background of these characters? Like I saw you nodding a lot as I was.
Floronic Man, familiar enough that when I watched the Swamp Thing series from DC, like the name drop of Jason Woodrue is one of the scientists or the main scientist in that show. Like I was familiar enough to understand the context of that character. I didn't know that he appeared all the way back in '62 in the Atom. Like that's a long stretch to not be doing anything in comics, and then all of a sudden,
he was known as the I think it was I didn't write it down, but I think he was known as the Plant Master.
Okay,
but he was just a mad scientist.
So I was looking at this too, and maybe you came across it somewhere. DC's got a real fixation with like plant controlling characters in their universes. Like there's a lot of plant-based villains and heroes and anti-heroes, and it's like after a while you kind of joked earlier, oh, the Floronic Man doing his best Swamp Thing impression, and that's really what this is. This is not a fresh or new take. This is if Swamp Thing wanted to rule the world, and that's essentially what the Floronic Man is doing here. Obviously most people at this point in time are familiar with Harley Quinn. I remember seeing Harley Quinn pop up on Batman the Animated Series when I was little, watching those Saturday morning cartoons after school cartoons. And then when I got into comics, going back and reading that first time she appeared in DC continuity, because you had the comic book that was attached to the TV show, which was all fun and good and well, but then there was a little bit of a different tone when they put her in the actual continuity of DC.
And my thing is I will say, although I've only briefly read Saga of Swamp Thing, I haven't really read it in depth. It's one of those that I want to sit down and read.
And it's one you have to be all in on.
Yes. I will say my knowledge of the Floronic Man is that he is Jason Woodrue, who performed experiments on himself and got turned into the Floronic Man. This movie briefly throws out that he's just a creature from another dimension.
Yeah.
And so I was like, wait, what?
That was a little confusing because why does he have a human person name if he's Snorlax from the Andromeda galaxy or whatever it was? Like what? Yeah. It's like they're trying to connect some dots for those of us who have contextual background of these characters to pay homage, I guess. I don't know, but it completely threw me.
Yeah, we're going to get into more of that conversation in the second half, so that we don't spoil too much. But I
think that's important to know, though. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, but let's go ahead and get into the cast. And I mean, it is a Batman and Harley Quinn, so there is Batman, voiced by the legend himself, Kevin Conroy.
How good was that to hear again? Oh man,
the definitive voice of Batman. I mean, he's appeared from 1992 Batman the Animated Series, and then did the Arkham games, and has done several of the animated movies, and it's always great to hear Kevin Conroy's voice, and so no issues with that whatsoever. Then we got Harley Quinn, voiced by Melissa Rauch. If you're not familiar with Melissa Rauch, if you're a fan of The Big Bang Theory, of course she was Bernadette on that. Currently, she's the judge. I do not remember the character's name on Night Court, and of course, you've seen her in lots of other things. She has her own take on Harley Quinn. A lot more of a, this is the way I put it down, a lot more of a Brooklyn bombshell.
Sure, I can see that.
Than the manic pixie that Arlene Sorkin created on the animated series.
Yeah.
And I will say that I think listening to her when you've got Kevin Conroy and I'll just go ahead and say Lorne Lester as Nightwing, who is also returning to that role after playing Dick Grayson, Robin, Nightwing on Batman the Animated Series and the new Batman Adventures. I don't think he's voiced the character from then. I think this was the first time he had came back to voice that character. So having those two, and then you go against Melissa Rauch, who's a brand new Harley Quinn. I just want to ask you, how did you feel about having her being so different when the animation style is clearly inspired from animated series?
Yep.
We've got the original voices of Dick Grayson and Batman. How did that work for you? Or I'll just say it. Or would you have preferred Arlene Sorkin?
I'll say this. She did a valiant job. It wasn't a bad take on Harley Quinn. She did, as you said, put her own little touch on it. It was one of those situations, though, you hear Batman's voice, you hear Lorne Lester as Nightwing. If you've ever gone through the McDonald's drive-thru and you've ordered a Coke and you take that first sip and it's Dr. Pepper, like you were expecting one thing and you get another. So to hear not Arlene Sorkin, not Tara Strong, you get Melissa's voice coming out. It's not awful. You can enjoy it still. It's just not what you would have preferred.
Yeah. And I get Arlene Sorkin had retired by this point.
Right.
I did look that up. She had retired
she'd
from voice acting. Yeah. But yeah, like you said, I mean, why not get Tara Strong? Why not get Hayden Walsh?
Yeah. Already had a run with some of the,
and the two of them were pretty much following Arlene Sorkin.
It is you talked about the animation style being in the vein of the animated series, which it was. There was some shots where I was like, oh, this is not working for me. Like they're trying to do the animated series, but they're also trying to do some type of other animation. And that's kind of how I felt the voice was done for Harley Quinn. It was like we're trying to hearken back to Arlene Sorkin, but also do our own thing. And sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. It wasn't awful, but just not my preference.
And I want to, and I think Blake is on the same page as I am. I did not dislike Melissa Rauch as Harley Quinn.
Agreed.
It was just, you are putting this version of Harley Quinn into a movie that is so heavily connected to the animated series, yet her voice doesn't fit that.
It doesn't. Like, you're geared and primed for old school Harley Quinn, and you, especially with Bruce Timm at the helm of this, like, and you don't get that.
Yeah, because this would be like you putting Daniel Craig's James Bond into Moonraker.
Oh God! You know? Holy cow! Okay, it's a deep cut there.
But I mean, you get what I'm saying.
I gotcha. Yeah.
Daniel Craig's is such a different James Bond to Moore, Roger Moore. I was trying to think.
Not Alan Moore, Roger Moore.
Yeah. Or even putting him into, a Sean Connery Bond movie, that same feel of the, I love the Bond movies, but that campiness from the 60s and 70s Bond movies.
It's out of place.
But then you put this grittier James Bond like Daniel Craig has played.
Yeah.
It would probably work, but just something about it wouldn't feel right.
Just something in the pit of your stomach telling you.
Yeah. Well, moving on, then we've got our two villains. We've got Poison Ivy, voiced by one of my favorite actresses, Paget Brewster, who many of you might know as I, immediately will connect her to Criminal Minds. She also had a run on the show Community, for those of you who forgot about that. But I mean, she's done several voice work before, including the newer DuckTales.
Oh, really?
She was, yep.
Good for her. Yeah, she did a great job as Poison Ivy, I thought. I really liked her voice acting as Poison Ivy.
No, I thought it was good as well. Yeah. I mean, as little as there really is of Poison Ivy and Floronic Man. And then, of course, we've got the Floronic Man, voiced by legend again, Kevin Michael Richardson. Because if you need someone to voice, especially a villain, get Kevin Michael Richardson.
I knew it sounded familiar, so I didn't look up who had voiced it because I figured I was going to learn here. But yeah, I knew that sounded familiar. Yeah, a great job. Just the character development, maybe not so much for me.
Yeah, but again, I'm not going to fault.
I can't fault
Kevin
the voice
Michael
actor.
Richardson's voice. No, as soon as he starts speaking, I'm like, all right, this is a villain that
to be reckoned with.
Yeah. And that gets me already thinking about more. So let's just go ahead and knock out this first half. Watch it or read it. So for people who have not seen Batman and Harley Quinn, no matter what we think about it, which we'll get into in the second half. So Blake, should they watch this movie or should they read some comics?
Go find a comic book. Touch grass and read a comic while you're out there. Don't watch it.
Yeah, so I tried not to let my feelings about the movie affect this. I'm actually gonna say watch it. Yes, it's, as we've talked about, it's kind of uneven with, you think you're gonna get something that's unique to the, Batman animated series canon. And it has some of that in it. But then we get this really bizarre humor. We get a couple of unexpected musical numbers.
Okay, you better skip to the second half of this, or you're going to get me rolling here in a minute.
We get, it's of course much raunchier than the animated series. So I will say this: if you're expecting a throwback to the animated series, then yes, find you some comics to read about Floronic Man and whatnot. But if you are in the mood for something that's just a bit different, kind of meta, but I will actually say distinctively Bruce Timm, then watch it. So
that's fair.
That's where we're gonna go. Yeah.
Okay.
Now it's time for a commercial.
Life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and listen to the 80s Flick Flashback podcast once in a while, you could miss it. Do you love movies of a certain age? Do you miss the days of VHS tapes, VCRs, and the video rental stores? Does the thought of another 80s movie being remade seem inconceivable? My name is Tim Williams. I'm the creator and host of the 80s Flick Flashback podcast. On each episode, I'm joined by guest co-hosts to discuss one of the many movies released in the 1980s. We share our first-time watch memories, our favorite scenes, and even learn some behind-the-scenes stories about the cast and crew along the way. New episodes are released every other Friday on your favorite podcasting platform. So make like a tree, get out of here, and go listen to an excellent episode of the 80s Flick Flashback Podcast. The ad is over. Go home. Go.
All right, let's get into this second half, which is probably going to be a lot longer than it needs to be because I'm sure we are going to go. But let's take a trip around the spinner rack, and we'll start off, as we always do, with our speech bubble, our favorite quote. I'm going to go ahead and give mine. Mine was actually a conversation. I didn't have just a single quote.
Okay.
But this line, I just found it so funny. We don't like to get political on this show, but this quote does. Ivy and Harley are fussing at each other at the end of the movie, and Ivy says, "They're killing our world. What else can I do?" And Harley says, "I don't know. Vote Democrat. Give money to Greenpeace." And Ivy says, "That's for saving whales. That's for saving whales, moron." And Harley says, "Whatever. Anything's better than turning us into walking Brussels sprouts."
I didn't know if we could do a whole conversation, but that would, bar none, be mine. I was just going to go with the vote Democrat, join Greenpeace. That's in a movie that felt disjointed with a lot of the jokes. And for me, a lot of the jokes fell flat, like very flat. That one hit really, really well. That was well done, well executed by both voice actresses. The back and forth, the repartee there was good. So no, I agree with you. That was my favorite speech bubble as well.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I was kind of surprised.
Legitimately, that maybe I actually laughed out loud at that.
Oh, I did too.
Yeah.
I was watching this. Actually, I had headphones in because my daughters were around, and I knew can't really have it playing with them.
Not this one for sure.
So I was watching it on my Kindle, but yeah, right after that part, I paused it and I called Bethany over. I said, "You got to hear this."
It was good. It's a great line. It's a great conversation. There were some other little cool quips and quotes, but that one sticks out more so than any of the others.
Yeah, I will say there were some that are better. They were good quotes, but with the visual aspect seeing them,
didn't work.
Like they don't work as a quote all by itself.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I did like when, again, we are in the spoiler half.
Spoiler time.
Harley Quinn and Nightwing do share an intimate moment together.
Did you feel? Let's pause. I felt wrong watching that occur. It was almost like the Hush animated movie where Batman and Batgirl share an intimate moment. I was like, this is weird and strange, and I didn't like it. But anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
I will almost say, though, the Hush one is probably more graphic.
Oh, yeah, it is more graphic, for sure. Yeah.
Because this one, at least once it gets going, it's kind of in the dark.
Yeah, the lights go out.
Yeah. But it was when Batman then shows up, and we get the Sherlock Batman of him looking at various things, and he can put it all together. And then the look he gives Nightwing, and then Nightwing goes, "Like you've never done it."
Yeah, like you've never made out with a villain before. Yeah.
I mean, that was a good line.
That was good, but you need the visuals.
You need that visual setup and the look that Batman gives them.
That same moment was the "Did you get what you needed?" And he's like, "Well, yeah, I did." He's like, "Oh, you mean the location of?" He's like, "No, not yet. No, I haven't. Not yet."
Yeah.
So some good like situational lines, but again, just out of context would not work as a speech bubble, I don't think.
Yeah. But I do think that moves us into, at least for me, it's a good segue into our moving panel, our favorite or iconic scene that we enjoyed out of this. I'm just going to go ahead I've got two, but I'm going to give my first one.
Okay.
The bar brawl. We don't see the brawl.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
We see Batman, Nightwing, and Harley Quinn. They got the information they need. They're about to leave. And all of these henchmen are preventing them from leaving. The one says, "Hey, you put a lot of my friends in jail." And then I love Batman takes his utility belt off going, "Look, I don't need any
I don't need anything. Yeah.
I'm going to take you guys out." And then we jump to the outside of the bar and we get the classic 1960s, boom,
pow,
but,
bam, yeah.
But the words we get are break, bleed,
And
and I am going to say it, ow my balls.
yeah, that was pretty funny and unexpected. And that's one of those moments where it was funny because it was unexpected.
Yeah.
You know, you've been primed to expect the 1960s Batman words popping up there, and then all of a sudden you get ow my balls. So that was good. That would have been my moving panel had we seen the brawl. I would like to have seen the words over top of the brawl occurring.
Yeah. I think though I like though the fact that it's just you can just imagine for yourself what this fight looks
just
like.
An uppercut right to between the legs there.
Well, also for it to say break
Yeah.
and bleed.
Yeah.
You know, something that in a lot of Batman stuff that could come across as that dark, gritty Batman. You know, I'm gonna break you. I'm gonna make you bleed. You know, and all that. But to do it in that 1960s,
that 60s font, yeah,
break, bleed. I mean, it was just great. I just love that. I did enjoy that kind of juxtaposition.
Yeah.
Of that. But what have you got for a moving panel?
So the moving panel for me that sticks out, and it's unfortunate because as a moving panel with no words, it is, in my mind, stunning. And it's the scene where Swamp Thing comes out of the water. And like you get that overhead shot of him looming over the rest of everybody that's there. And that's just such a cool shot.
Yeah, the trees part.
Yeah, the trees
to have the
part,
moon
and like he's
shining down as like a spotlight.
Like he's standing above the trees, and it's only from the waist up out of the water. So it's just this gigantic creature towering over everyone. And like I said, the aerial shot where you can see everybody else kind of laid out on the ground and him just looming over them. That's a very cool frame.
Yeah, no, I probably would have considered that if it wasn't for what happens next.
Yeah, he started talking.
Which we will get into.
Okay.
Which we will get into.
All
but I do have another moving panel, and it actually comes right after the bar brawl. And it is the scene where Batman calls Booster Gold. And I just love as Booster is going, well, let me see who I got who can help you guys out. And as he's naming people, the motions that Nightwing is giving him,
with the subtitle.
And we get the subtitle as to what he means by each one, of why we don't want that one.
That was good.
And then
that sounds like paper.
Yes. And then but I love that Batman plays along with it because they also, it comes down to well, I guess I could help you guys. And Batman immediately is like, oh, no, we don't want that.
No, absolutely not.
And so Nightwing starts crumpling the paper, and Batman just goes along with it. He goes, oh, I think we're running into some interference. And then Booster Gold goes, sounds like paper.
Just click. Thanks. That's okay. Did you look up who's voicing Booster Gold there?
I did not. I didn't even think about it.
Bruce Timm.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's funny.
Yeah, I was curious as to that because I've heard interviews of Bruce Timm, and I was like, that sounds like Bruce Timm. And then I looked it up, and sure enough, that is Bruce Timm voicing Booster Gold.
I was just so enthralled with the scene. I wasn't even focusing on the voice of Booster Gold.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
And I could just see it, as, a page in a comic. And even having, like, Booster, like, in, like, maybe the corner of each frame.
Like a little bubble. Yeah.
I think it's just a great one. But do you have another one? I have a question for you if you don't.
I don't. No, that's really the one that stuck out in my mind. Yeah.
So you and I have already kind of played off of, and we might even hit something I have later when I ask you this question.
Okay.
But since we're in the moving panel section, was there a scene in this movie that I'll just say broke you and made you go, what am I watching?
Yes, there was, Laramy. The entire dual dance number scene in the bar. What? Okay, let's start with this. This could have been a 40-minute thing, tops. You've got the scene where she chases Bobby Leibowitz for some reason for 4.5 minutes. Why are we doing it? And then we go to the bar where the brawl does happen. The very funny break, bleed, ow, my balls occurs. Like that's great. To get to that though, Laramy, we had to trudge through countless double-digit minutes of musical numbers.
2 musical numbers, yes.
And yeah, exactly to your point, I'm thinking, what am I watching? And quite frankly, why am I watching this?
Because it was one thing to have the twins singing in the background
While action's occurring, yeah.
But they just go straight to, let's just watch this performance.
Yep.
Now, I will say this. So that was not like the original song that was just playing. That was a performance. And it was a performance by Rob Paulson.
Okay.
The voice of Yakko Warner.
Yeah.
That was him singing as both characters.
Okay. Which, now, don't get me wrong, the singing was great. The actual, voice singing was great.
Yes, but it's just the fact that we just stop and watch.
Why? And the only way
Harley gets up there.
Yeah, the only way to get information is for her to sing a song?
Yeah, I didn't get it either. I didn't. That was one that it was just like, okay, we're just going to put a big old halt to this movie.
I was teetering up until that point as to what my opinion on the film was. And then that occurred. And it was a war of attrition from then forward to finish it.
So if you are listening to this and you have not seen that, just know that they are going to just completely put the movie in pause.
Did they just need time?
I don't know.
I meant to look up what is the designation for a film. Like, at what point in time can you call it
called an actual movie?
Called a movie? Is that the only reason why we have that in there? Because that's what it felt like.
I don't know, because I want to say like a movie like Balto. Balto is only like 60-something minutes long, I think.
Yeah. Does it have to be?
That was released in theaters.
Yeah. Does it have to be at least an hour 10? Like, yeah. Anyways, I'll have to look that up at some point in time.
Yeah. I don't know, but.
Yeah. No, I did not care for that at all.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on. So I created a section for this particular movie that I called "Coulda, Shoulda, Woulda."
Oh God, jeez.
All right.
Oh boy.
So we've already talked about one of them. Like, should we have just left with Arlene Sorkin, Tara Strong, Hayden Walsh instead of Melissa Ross? We've already talked about that.
Okay.
But let me ask you this: was it just me, or did Batman feel like a side character?
Okay, so if you're going to title it Batman and Harley Quinn, and we know why they do that, the Batman name sells. It moves people to purchase, to rent, to buy. But if you're going to say Batman and Harley Quinn, it shouldn't be a rom-com about Nightwing and Harley Quinn and then Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy.
Yeah.
With Batman just kind of running, around in the background. 100% agree with you. There felt like there was little to no detective work on Batman's part in this as well. Other than
realizing that
like
Nightwing and
Yeah, he literally had one moment where he realized two people were hooking up, for lack of a better term, and that was the only detective work he did.
Yeah, it really is. But do you think that was, and again, this is Bruce Timm. I trust Bruce Timm.
I thought I did.
Do you think that was intentional, or do you think that the story just got away from him? And Batman just got forgotten in the story?
It's clear to me the story got away. This is... I know we're trying to be kind, especially in the non-spoiler section of this, so I'm just going to...
Oh, but we're in the spoiler section now.
Sorry, that's what I'm saying. I was being gentle in the beginning.
Yeah.
This is about as disjointed a film as I've watched, especially from Bruce Timm. There are plot points that are unnecessary. There are characters like Batman who didn't have to be in the movie, just to put it bluntly. You didn't need Batman in this.
No.
It could have been Nightwing and Harley Quinn. It could have been Harley Quinn.
Yeah, which I actually had as another question to ask you, like, who else could have teamed up with Harley Quinn for this story?
Yeah, it could have just been Harley Quinn. On her own, realizing Poison Ivy's in trouble. They've already got a lot of history built up. She would have reason to go protect Poison Ivy to try and save her from what she felt was perilous danger. So this could have been a solo movie on her own. If you had to pair up with somebody, get Black Canary. Make it a full-on like DC super villain girls movie, Catwoman,
Birds of Prey
type of thing. Yeah, you didn't need. Batman was in this for the name. That's really it.
Well, I also think Batman was in it for that contrast. But I agree with you. Black Canary could have given you the same contrast.
Part of my issue with that is you're talking about contrast. Batman was a little aloof in this, a little silly with some of the facial expressions, with some of the comments. It
smells like discipline.
Smells like discipline. What? What? Okay, so for those of you, if you haven't watched it and you're here already, they stop and pick up. They do the bar. This happens after the bar brawl, right? Or is it before?
I can't remember.
I think it's after. Either way, Harley Quinn works as a waitress, and she makes a comment that she's eaten some bad chicken wings, and Batman will not pull over to let her go to the bathroom. So Harley Quinn actually starts ripping farts in the back of the Batmobile.
Yeah.
And Batman's like, it's not that bad. It's okay.
Nightwing, Nightwing is
holding
going,
his nose.
Oh God!
Oh no, it's terrible.
Yeah.
And she does a very wet fart. She needed to check herself after it, to be honest. And Batman's like making faces at farts. I was like, Bruce.
Well, but I like at first he is straight faced.
Yeah, he is straight faced.
And he makes the line, smells like discipline.
Smells like discipline. What does that even mean, Laramy?
But then I don't know. But then she keeps doing it, and you do get, even just from that mouth part that you
just
can
the
see.
Mouth. Yeah, his eyes squint up a little bit.
Yeah, you do start getting that it is getting to Batman.
Yeah.
And so he does have to pull over to a gas station.
So again, I get Harley Quinn as this jokester and this, like I said, juxtaposition to Batman, but she's not a 10-year-old boy farting in the back of the Batmobile for laughs.
Yeah, I do think I agree with you. I think putting the Batman name on it was just to get people to watch it. But I do think this probably could have been done with another character.
Yeah.
I don't think it would have worked as a solo Harley Quinn. I think she had to have somebody with her.
Okay. Who pushes her to do this then?
Well, like I said, I actually kind of liked your idea of it being someone like Black Canary, maybe even Huntress.
Yeah.
You know, my mind originally went with doing it with the Question.
Oh.
But I think you kind of run into even the same issue as with Batman. Like, Batman doesn't play a big part in the story.
Yeah.
And I think the Question would fall into that same hole. Whereas, you know, maybe a character like Black Canary or Huntress would probably fill that a little bit better, and they'd have more to do.
I mean, Larry, with the way it was going, you might as well go full crossover and had her team up with Elmer Fudd. You know, just bring in a Looney Tunes character.
Yeah. So here's a question, and I asked you before we recorded to start thinking about this, so hopefully you did.
Yeah.
So again, shoulda, coulda, woulda. If they did this live action, who would you cast? Now, I mean, Margot Robbie would clearly be Harley.
Yep.
I don't want to get into a debate of who would play Batman or who would play Nightwing. So I mainly want to focus on the three that we haven't seen that much.
Okay.
And so we got Harley. Can you think of someone other maybe than Margot Robbie?
Okay.
Then you've got Poison Ivy and Floronic Man. Now I will point out they have been played live action. Many of you might remember 1997, Batman and Robin, Uma Thurman played Poison Ivy. Some of you may have forgotten, though, that John Glover, who is the scientist that actually helps create both Bane and Poison Ivy, is playing Jason Woodrue, but he never becomes Floronic Man on screen.
Yeah.
And then, as Blake has already mentioned, Jason Woodrue was also from the Swamp Thing TV show, played by Kevin Durand, and he does become Floronic Man in that, and like at the very end of the series, clearly a setup for a season 2 that never happened.
Yeah.
But who would you have casted in these roles?
Okay, we're talking about keeping it as a voice actor, correct?
No, making it live action.
Making it live action. Sorry, okay, making it live action.
Yeah.
In that case, is there an order you want me to take this in?
No.
All right.
However you want to do it.
So Harley Quinn, and I don't know how many of you are going to be familiar with this person, aniMAYtion Poots.
Okay.
I think she has the vocal range. I've also seen her in some roles where she can get a little outlandish, a little silly, but I'm specifically thinking taking this and turning it a little bit. If you've ever watched Outer Range on Amazon Prime, her and Josh Brolin, it is very much Josh Brolin is like this Batman-esque character. He's this dark, brooding lead character facing off against this meek, seemingly mild, timid person who aniMAYtion Poots has this dark side to her in the show. But just her and some other roles plus Outer Range, I think she's got the ability to play a Harley Quinn character that would have fit with this pretty well. So that's my Harley Quinn.
I know who you're talking about there. I don't think I've seen enough in her repertoire to have ever thought of her as this version of a Harley Quinn. But okay, I'd be interested. And I didn't know you were as big of a aniMAYtion Poots fan as you seem to be.
Have you watched The Green Room? You ever seen Green Room?
I have not.
Oh God, okay.
But it does make me think now. So she was in a movie that many people may not know is based on a comic book called I Kill Giants.
I don't think I've seen her in that.
So yeah, I may have to bring you back and talk about that movie then.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, she's in lots of like Vivarium, Green Room. I think she was in the remake of Fright Night back in 2011.
No, was it Black? I know she did Black Christmas.
Maybe that's what it is. Okay.
Yeah, the kind of retelling of that. Yeah, that one that came out just a couple years ago.
I'm a big fan. I think she's a very underrated actress, and she's someone who is not so big that you put her in that role, and who she is overshadows the character.
Yeah.
So that's my choice for Harley. Do you want me to go straight through, or do you want to? Who's your Harley?
No. I want to hear from you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Poison Ivy, and I don't know how to pronounce the last name. I think it's Britt Lauer, Severance.
Okay.
The redhead from Severance. Just on that show alone, her duplicitousness in how she plays that character. If you haven't watched Severance, she plays a character who is essentially two different people based on where she is. And so her ability to be this sneaky, evil, conniving character, while at the same time playing someone who is very likable and lovable and you care about them, is very much in the vein of Poison Ivy, who is someone, she's trying to do something for the right reasons, but going about it in the wrong way.
Okay.
And so
I can see that.
She does a great job. As far as the Floronic Man goes, I know he wants to be Batman, but Alan Ritchson as the Floronic Man, just the hulking size of him and his ability to deliver things that shouldn't be delivered straight. If you've ever watched him in Reacher, or it's super underrated, but it's almost it's not the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, but it's a Guy Ritchie film that just came out. It's about this group of guys.
I know which one you're talking about.
And he's actually really good in that. It's a super, again, underrated in my opinion. But I think him as the Floronic Man would be a very good take on the character.
Ministry of Ungentleman
Warfare. That's it. Yep.
So with the other two, again, I'm not as familiar with both of their works to have probably picked either one of them. Alan Richardson's a good pick, but man, I really want him to find a hero that he actually, and I will say hero, not villain.
No, and again, if he can't be Batman,
I want him to find a hero that he gets locked into.
Yeah, I want to see him for years doing this.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, he was great as Aquaman on Smallville. He was great as Hawk on Titans. You know, he's had these moments.
Yep.
But man, he is a really good actor.
Yeah.
And a great action star.
Yep.
And so, and again, with a man his size, which I love.
His physicality.
Yeah. I love that he actually is Reacher, because when Tom Cruise was cast as Reacher, and I'm like, did nobody read the book?
No one, not a soul.
Like, did no one read the book to read the description of Jack Reacher? Alan Richardson is Jack
Yeah,
Reacher.
yeah.
Tom Cruise is not
Yeah.
Jack Reacher.
Yep.
So I'd love to see him play a character, and I wouldn't want him to be wasted as Floronic Man. So, but yeah, so those are some interesting picks there.
Some sleeper picks, some underdogs for you, if you will.
Yeah. My last one here with shoulda, coulda, woulda is, could this possibly be a story that Harley is telling someone?
Oh, you're going
And
back
so
to
she's
Batman the Animated
stretching-
Series almost got him. Okay.
So she's stretching the truth a little bit
Okay.
and making the story a little bit more favorable.
If that were the case, Laramy, but I don't know. I guess Harley Quinn is someone who would tell about a time she farted in the Batmobile, despite how it makes her look. So yeah, I could see that being an almost in the psych ward.
Well, because it would be about the way that she broke
Batman. Yeah.
Yeah. Like that would be the reason for telling that story.
I could certainly see that being the case if it hadn't ended in such a horrific fashion. The way that
which ending are you talking about? Are
if
you
we'd
talking
have-
about the ending of the main movie, or are you talking about the scene that came after the credits?
Well, see, now I didn't know there was a scene after the credits, Laramy. Because I turned it off immediately after the end scene where she asked them to light a match, presumably to fart on Floronic Man to light him on fire.
Yeah. Well, and it wasn't just that. It was after she comes up with the idea, then both of them kiss
her on the cheek.
cheeks. Yeah.
I was so aghast and so flummoxed that I didn't even watch. What's the after credit scene, Laramy?
Okay. No. We are going to pause. There's going to be a break in this episode right here. We'll go quiet for just a second. You'll definitely tell there's an edit here. And I am going to have Blake watch the scene that comes at the end of the credits. So,
okay.
So we will have the edit now.
What and why? That I have lost brain cells watching what I just watched at that end credit thing. What's the purpose of that?
I don't know. But I will tell look, so again, if you weren't aware that there is a scene, and I mean it is a good
it's like a 4-minute scene.
4 or 5 minute scene at the end of finding out that Harley now has a Dr. Phil like show that also includes
But it's also like Knockout or whatever.
Yeah, American Ninja Warrior style obstacle course
that she makes Wessie go through after he's clearly uncomfortable.
Yeah.
The only part that's good about that is be good to yourself because everyone else is probably out to get you. I mean, that's true. That's at least accurate. But what? Okay. What's the point of this entire movie? What did it make any money? Did it further anyone's career? Because it has hurt me. It has personally harmed and injured me.
Oh man,
I didn't know it got worse, Laramy.
I am so happy that I got to experience that of you. That was one of those moments that while Blake was watching that scene, like I'm just going, man, this would be great if I recorded video. Like
befuddlement is the word I can best use to describe my emotion while watching it. Anger is after I've completed it. Now is what I'm feeling. Bruce Timm is involved in this. Clearly not at a high level, though.
I don't know how much of it was Bruce Timm and how much of it was Jim Krieg. I have no idea. But yeah, there you go.
It's a disservice to the character.
Man, there was a lot of disservice to characters.
Yeah, there was a whole lot. There was a And here's the thing too. We touched on it just briefly for a moment. Batman has raised up Nightwing to be cut from the exact same cloth. Like his focus is Batman's focus. His mission is Batman's mission. The implied joke right before the Harley Quinn Nightwing intimate moment that's made is not something that I think would ever occur for Dick Grayson. I just don't. I don't see it happening. So I don't understand what you're doing to the characters. And I get, hey, let's have some fun. Let's poke some fun. Either you wanted it to be like the 90s show or you want to do something different. Pick a lane and stay in it.
Yeah, again, like I said earlier when I was talking about the watch it or read it. Yeah, it's very uneven. All right. So I don't want this episode to run too long, but
let's keep it going.
I've got to get in my weird science.
Okay.
So let's talk about some moments, and I have a couple, but I'll try to keep it brief. And most of them have to do with both Poison Ivy and Floronic Man.
Yeah.
So first off, Poison Ivy ends up having issues with Floronic Man because Floronic Man has his own agenda versus what Poison's or Ivy's agenda is. Why can't Ivy control Floronic Man?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for saying what the entire room was thinking. He's a plant.
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole joke at the end.
Yeah. Yeah. Just control him.
He's made entirely of leaves.
Leaves. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just control him. That's something that it shouldn't be. You should be able to suspend disbelief or whatever, but that bothered me a good bit. The whole time I'm watching it, I'm like, just control him.
Yeah. Yeah, when he's not doing what you want to do, or especially right before he kills the scientist.
Yeah, just stop him.
Like, yeah, just go, no, we're leaving, and make him follow you.
Yeah.
So that was and now I'm going to move over to another thing. So the green. This is something you and I talked about earlier. When they have that very weird moment of Floronic Man all of a sudden pulling out a sweet potato.
A yam.
Yeah.
What?
And he gives this really weird explanation about how special it is. And then when Poison Ivy eats it, I didn't get the glowing, like...
so here's my thing.
Vines, veins.
One, he inferred that he pulled that yam out of Swamp Thing like it was a botfly. Like he squeezed a tubular out of... Which,
for anybody who's never seen The Return of Swamp Thing, the movie, there is kind of a funny moment about that. So go see that movie about some sort of item coming out of Swamp Thing and making someone else eat it.
Oof, that's a sentence and a half right there.
But yeah. But my whole thing about it was, of course, then apparently that is to allow Ivy to enter the green.
Is
with
the green
Floronic
interdimensional? Man. Is it transportational?
I mean, yeah. Well, it's transportational. No, I'll say it's transportational.
Okay,
like that's the way Swamp Thing can get from one place to another.
You're correct. You're correct. Yes. Okay, but it doesn't look like it's a portal, though.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be really like interdimensional. But my thing about it was when that happens, and then of course when they talk about once Batman and Harley and Nightwing get there, and they're like, "How did they get here?" And of course, it was through the green. I'm fine with that. But did they expect just Joe Schmo viewer to know what the green was?
Yeah, what was going on? The green was never explained. We obviously would have known. But I'd imagine if you're just somebody watching this for the first time, you're like, oh, it's on Amazon Prime. Let me just watch it because I got nothing else going on. And they start talking about the green. I'd be very confused.
Yeah, because it would be like, if there's not a lot of... I mean, I don't know. It's hard for someone like me to talk about this, but it would be like watching a movie with the Flash, and all of a sudden he's making this big talk about the Speed Force.
Yeah.
Or Firestorm and the Firestorm Matrix.
Yeah.
If they just throw it out there as if it's something that you should just know what it is and how it exists and how it works. I mean, because that's what the green is. The green is kind of the source of the power of a lot of these plant-based characters in DC. But yeah, it's really just a network of how all of plant life is connected. And it's literally the force of nature.
But yeah, can you imagine watching this for the first time and these two creatures eat a yam that came out of the body of someone else, and suddenly they can travel through time and space?
Yeah.
Without any explanation.
And I mean, there's a deep explanation. I mean, Floronic Man, when Jason Woodrue becomes the Floronic Man, he forces a connection to the green because, his
it's not a naturally occurring
his
thing.
wasn't a natural creation. So he forces a connection very similar, again, going back to the Speed Force, very similar to what Reverse Flash
does. But none of that's explained in this. You could have taken out one musical number and used that time to explain what the green was.
Yeah, and this is, again, where that unevenness, they don't go into detail about something like that. It's leaning on comic book legacy.
But we get, again, 4 minutes of Harley Quinn chasing an ex-boyfriend over the rooftops of Gotham.
All right, my next weird science is... the weed killer pills that apparently Harley Quinn has.
Oh, man. Okay. Why aren't we using them the entire time?
Exactly. My question was, why doesn't Harley try using one on Floronic Man?
Yeah, the moment she dropped that out of her sleeve and said what it was, my thought was, why not the entire movie? This could have been 13 minutes long. We could have been done with this. Use your weed killer pill.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where, and it's funny because there's the moment where she gets upset at Batman because Batman has all these gadgets on his utility belt, but he doesn't have mosquito spray.
Yeah,
doesn't have bug spray.
And she's got the one thing that could take this guy down. Yeah. I mean, and again, it could show that it doesn't work on him. But why not try it? You shouldn't have even shown her doing that.
Like, why not have a moment where she tries it on Floronic Man?
Yeah.
Even if it didn't work.
Yep.
I didn't like that. And then finally, and I'm going to literally read what I have in my notes.
Okay.
Swamp Thing. I just can't.
Laramy,
why did Swamp Thing show up?
Of all the infuriating parts of this movie, that was probably the apex of my anger.
Because it makes sense for Swamp Thing to show up. This is a nature-based crime.
I kept waiting for it to happen.
Yeah. And so, like Blake talked about earlier, when Swamp Thing shows up, it's this big epic moment. You're thinking, Floronic Man is done now.
Yeah.
And then Swamp Thing says, you should know better.
Yeah.
But I'm going to let it go. Because what's going to happen's going to happen.
Okay, sarah to everybody. Yeah.
And then he just leaves.
It was a moment where you could have had this like final showdown between these two plant-based characters, good versus evil, right versus wrong, the green versus the forced green. But instead you get this, Swamp Thing's essentially like, hey, not my problem. I'm going to just bounce.
Yeah. Or heck, even the fact that they made Swamp Thing the giant version of Swamp Thing.
The huge version, yes.
Just have him just end it right then and there.
One squash, boop, done. Okay.
Doom, or banishing him to the green.
I foresaw, and here's how it played out in my mind, Laramy. He's like towering over the Floronic Man. I saw him opening up and like absorbing the Floronic Man.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm talking about with like making him be imprisoned in the green or something. Yeah, it was just such a waste of a character.
Just don't even have him show up at all.
Man, look, I love Swamp Thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Swamp Thing is one of my, I might say, top 5 characters in DC.
He's a dude.
And they have always done him wrong. He's had 2 movies, live action movies. He's had 2 live action television series. He's had an animated television series. He's appeared in a couple of different animated movies, and he is always done dirty. And the best version of Swamp Thing is that most recent television series.
The DC.
But that one, like I said, was done dirty because they just threw it away as if it never existed.
My plug that every time we talk about Swamp Thing, I try to plug this. DC Black Label did a run relatively recently, a three-issue run called Swamp Thing Green Inferno. and it is phenomenal. If you're a Swamp Thing fan, Swamp Thing, Green Inferno, to see the character done right.
And again, Saga Swamp Thing. Alan Moore gave so much depth to that character and made him so much more important to the DC universe. But man, look, I mean, even when Swamp Thing shows up in stories like Blackest Night, like it's a big deal, and it makes for a monumental moment. Which honestly, now that I'm talking about Blackest Night, that's a very similar Swamp Thing arriving moment. Very similar to the way they do in this movie, but Blackest Night has a much better outcome.
Yeah, they utilize him much better.
They actually utilize Swamp Thing, yeah. So, man, that
disappointing.
That did it for me. That the ending of this movie,
rough. Whichever one you choose to go with.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and go ahead and put our stamp on it. Okay. Bag it, stack it, or trade it. So after all this conversation, Blake, what say you?
I think I'm going to go first here, Laramy, and light it on fire. Eject it into the sun.
Like the Floronic Man?
Like the Floronic Man, yes. Anybody got a match? It's not good for my purposes. Again, I was very gentle before we did the spoiler portion. So if you were like, why are you contradicting? We want people to at least watch and be involved in the world of comic books. We want people to experience these things and form their own opinions. That's why we do this. We enjoy talking about them. We want others to enjoy it as well. But this is not one that can be enjoyed, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, I say trade it.
Trade it. Yeah, trade it.
Yeah, I say trade it. I mean, I will say, I was enjoying the fight between Harley and Poison Ivy until Harley puts an end to it by crying.
Crying, Laramy.
Crying is the way that she stops Poison Ivy from
and cries.
And cry. And that stops that makes Poison Ivy go, you know what? I'm not going to go forward with my evil plan.
There's this implied history of this occurring a lot, but you have no idea what they're talking about. Even a quick flashback to all the moments she's done this before to show us that this is something that she has utilized before would have been beneficial.
She calls it her nuclear option.
The nuclear option. So,
and then of course, then there's Swamp Thing showing up and doing nothing, which I love that the movie even like Harley says, well, that was a big, I mean, she's got a curse word in here that I won't say, but she goes, that was a big bucket of nothing.
Yeah.
Then the kiss when Batman, Nightwing kissing her on the cheek. They established that would have been fine, but Batman kissing her on the cheek,
never.
And when she comes up, and this is again where they underutilize Batman. When she comes up with the most basic solution to this problem, that the world's greatest detective did not think of.
Nope. That he's leaves.
Yeah. We can defeat Floronic Man with a match. Like, seriously? And yes, I love the return of Conroy and Lester, and I'll go ahead and say it, Bruce Timm, at least in terms of his look and his designs. Sure. But then the tonal whiplash and the inconsistent writing, it just puts this so far down on my list. Yeah. I'll say, kind of like I did with the Watch It or Read It, I will say, if you're curious in seeing it, see it. But no, this is not essential viewing.
Yeah, it's one you watch ironically, almost.
Kinda, yeah. I mean, there might be people out there that this will get like kind of a cult following. It might grow on you if you're in the mood, but it is so bizarre. It is so irreverent.
Yeah, that was really jarring too. To have the amount, I mean, I don't mind some irreverence. Just in this context, it was really jarring.
So it's a trade it for both of us. So let's get into some recommendations. Maybe something along these lines that's just better. You got a recommendation for us, Blake?
I'm gonna go with the old standby. Go back and watch the animated series.
Yeah.
Like, that's really what this boils down to. Go back and watch the animated series. Go back and watch the Swamp Thing cartoons from, what was that, the late 80s. Find yourself something to watch other than this. at one point in time, Laramy, we talk about the aniMAYtion real quick, and I'm going to give this recommendation, so I want it to make sense. I'm watching it, and I'm like, I'm just going to turn on Phineas and Ferb, because the aniMAYtion like turned into Phineas and Ferb-esque for like a good 30, 45 seconds for some reason halfway through the movie. And so just go watch Phineas and Ferb then. That's more entertaining than what I just watched.
Yeah, there's again, I figured something like
just the animated series
would be
the new adventures would be good too, because his suit, Batman's suit, is a New Adventures suit with the logo. It's not the classic, the animated series look. So the New Adventures are fun and entertaining to watch. I don't know.
Yeah, I decided to go the route of comics. If you like this version of Harley, I would say go read the Harley Quinn series from 2013, done by Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Connor. That leans into her being an anti-hero, but it gives her a different cast. Like, we don't have to rely on these bigger characters like Batman and whatnot. But it does explore what Harley would be like without the Joker, because we get a passing reference to the Joker in this. But it also gets her away from Batman always like looming over her and all. So I would say that. I also mentioned earlier Gotham City Sirens.
Yep.
By Paul Dini and what was the other? Who's the other person that did it? I can't remember the other person's name. But that gets into the relationship a little bit more between Harley and Ivy. Not as much romantic as
but
it
just
is
like
more
a
of
partnership.
Partnership, friends. Catwoman's also involved in that. It's very stylish. It's full of moments that are kind of echoed in the themes in this film, but a lot better writing and a lot clearer stakes. Like,
you know what's happening, why it's happening.
And then if you want to give you something to watch, I'll just say, since Blake said the original animated series, I'll say go watch the current Max.
Oh, yeah.
series.
Kaylee Cuoco. Yeah.
Yeah. So go see that. That'll give you more, if you like that raunchier version of Harley.
It's a lot of fun.
And that goes into more of the romantic relationship she has with Ivy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, again, if you're interested, watch this movie, but otherwise, you're good. You're fine. No need.
You just heard all about it.
Yeah. So, all right. So thank you, Blake, for being a part of this episode and helping kicking off this year's month of aniMAYtion. And I appreciate it. It was a fun conversation.
It's always fun. It's weird how the bad ones are always a lot of fun to get into.
Yeah. But let us know what you think. If this is a movie you actually like, let us know. Hit us up on social media. Email us, movingpanels@gmail.com. And also check out our new website, movingpanelspodcast.com. We've also got a store on TeePublic that you can buy some merchandise. But thanks everybody for listening. For today, for Moving Panels, I'm Laramy Wells, and I'll see you on the other side of the page.
Divide from print to screen, the legends stand.